Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Christianson with Tenacious Ventures. We're here at the NWES Expo, and we are talking to some of the people at the booths and on the floor and some of the speakers. And today with me, I have Marcelo Hahn, and he is going to talk a little bit about his company and basically talk about some of the data that he's using. It's called Let's Use Data. So go ahead and give us a little bit of background about Let's Use Data.
Awesome. So the background started with me. So I'm an engineer. I did programming for Microsoft for a while, and then I did programming for Tableau, and then I got involved in data analysis. And as part of my career, eventually I started doing some teaching. And like any engineer that you put to do something new, I started to try to optimize the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I was studying in the learning process, which are the most common bottlenecks that we have. And the biggest one so far is grading. So if you are a student in my class, it usually takes a while between you sending me work and me being able to give you a grade, feedback, or whatever it is. So then I started realizing that I am not that innovative in the grading. So after I've done the same problem with like 100 students, I'm more or less saying a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, well, if that is true, then that problem can be turned into a data analysis problem.
Mm-hmm.
What is the student doing? What other students did? And then what can we do to use that to give them feedback? And so that's what Let's Use Data to improve the student experience is where the whole story comes from.
That's awesome. I mean, there's so many layers to where that stuff can go. And it's really kind of at the beginning cutting edge, really, because I've heard of different schools and programs coming out that are starting to integrate this. So what are some of the projects and what are some of the things you've been working on with it?
So for now, I'm mostly focusing on programming because I'm biased towards programming. So this problem is a little easier in the context of programming because when I'm talking to you in English, requires a lot of way to interpret. So I may be sarcastic, which means I said something that I actually didn't mean.
Yeah.
Or I may have English as my second language. So now I'm saying something, but it's not totally correct. And the computers have a really hard time doing this. They're getting better, but they're not perfect yet. Where programming is a universal language. If I tell you write this in Python, no matter whether you're here or in some other country, what your language is, you're going to write more or less the same thing. It's much more defined. So that's why that is the space that I focus on now. So we take programming problems and we try to provide feedback. Originally, we worked mostly with instructor, but now we're also working with AI. And if you play with ChatGPT, it's getting there. It's not there yet. We've done this a couple of times with the students, and I remember one from like a little bit ago which says like, you need to turn this off. The AI is taking me nowhere. Other people are saying the AI is awesome. It's giving me good feedback. So we are, as you say, in the cutting edge. Not all of this depends on us, so I'm hoping the AI models will improve, and that will cause an improvement. And then our ability to use this feedback from the students to see what is working and what is not also gives us a way to improve.
Yeah, well, and I see huge benefits to that because I know you were saying earlier when we were talking that now this will enable the teacher to have a little bit more time directly interfacing with the student because they're not spending a whole bunch of time on grading. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So the objective here is not to replace the teacher with AI, is to replace the time the teacher spends with the most useful thing you can do. So if you send me a problem and you made an obvious error, now the whole cycle was wasted. Like you had to spend the time doing this, I had to spend the time telling you this is obviously wrong. So we want to move that to the part where when I interact with you, I'm giving you meaningful stuff on things where I actually have a meaningful thing to say.
Yeah, so essentially they can have more one-on-one conversation to develop the student, right? Instead of telling them what they're wrong about.
Correct. And also it shifts that discussion of you are wrong, I'm right, you are wrong, I'm right to a different level. And we can discuss about how the grading is doing and all that. But now we're having a more friendly conversation on a more interesting topic than like that semicolon is missing or that variable is named wrong, like simple things.
And then does this sort of thing, I can see it working really easily with multiple choice. Does it work for like essays and reading through essay?
So that's where questions? The English part comes. That's why I focus on code. So computer code is well defined. Essays are really hard because of what I was just saying. Like I may be joking, and I said something that actually didn't mean it. So I don't work on that area. I don't teach that part. So I look forward to that working eventually, but it's the hardest of the whole things.
Yeah, because really, like you were saying, you've got to depend on some of the large language models and the AI to kind of improve, and then if you're doing call outs to them, you can, within the system, you could basically integrate that in. That's awesome. And I can't wait for that to really come together too.
Yes, but it is more subjective. Like if you give me a computer program, I can objectively tell you it works or it doesn't work. If you give me an essay, there is a little bit more of my opinion. Whether I agree or I think you're writing the correct thing. It's not so black or white. Where math and programming is easier for this because of that issue, which is if I give you a math formula and I tell you do this, you either give me the right answer or don't give me the right.
Yeah, so really a lot of the stuff is more targeted towards the easy to grade stuff in the beginning, and then it'll get to more of the complex stuff later as the AI models improve. And maybe they don't ever get there, right? Maybe it has to call out sections that are questionable, and then the teacher still has to
Right, that's similar to what we were talking before. I don't think we'll quickly see the thing, but we will quickly shift the teacher conversation to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like if it's arguably correct or incorrect, then it's a fun conversation to have.
Yeah.
If it's obviously right or wrong, then the conversation is less interesting.
Yeah.
You don't really need me to tell you that.
So how do you see in the future this sort of technology down the road? What is its full capability? Like what do you see much further down the road?
So what we need to get to is like a one-on-one tutor. So if tomorrow I want to learn something, now I have another bottleneck, which is I have to find a school and I have to find the moment in which the class is being taught. And now I have to go to the class. So there is a lot of delay there between I decide that I need to learn something and I am actually able to learn it in a reasonable way. So we need to be able to bring that back and say, hey, I want to start this class right now. And a lot of people are working on this. So we need to combine those two ideas. I want to start learning now because I need it with this thing that I'm not going to make your learning worse because you want to start now. So there's still going to be a teacher and there's still going to be the AI and all that. So that would be the next bottleneck, like the gap between I need to learn something and I can start learning it because of all the system and how.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in your space then, what's next for you? What resources do you need? And what kind of brings you to the NWES event?
Well, so there is a lot of similarity between an event and a class. So there is a lot of things that I'm seeing here that I wish we could have the budget and the skills to do this. Like usually when you're a professor, you get this weird thing, which is because you're an expert on something, you are assumed to be an expert on a bunch of other things. So you may be an expert on programming, so I give you a computer and your program, but then I give you a microphone, a camera, students. That is a totally different skill set.
Yeah.
So that's why I hope we could teach the professors like some acting, some public speaking, some event planning in the sense of how do you get the students engaged and all the things.
Yeah.
So that's why this universe is particularly interesting.
Cool. And what have you seen so far? Is there anything that has stuck out?
First up, I was really surprised at the amount of time AI was mentioned in the program. Because I used to go to data things and AI is all over the place. But in here, I was expecting to be the one place where I wasn't going to be AI. But yesterday, there were 4 sessions on AI. All of them were really good.
Yeah.
And I was impressed as to how AI is everywhere. Again, I think like there was a presentation about hybrid presentations. A lot of that stuff will be incredibly useful in the teaching context.
Yeah.
Looking at the camera when you're talking to the students at home, looking at the person you're talking to, bringing the student at home to a screen right here.
Yeah.
So all of that very useful. Other things I wish we could do, like free ice cream if you solve the problems.
Yeah. Well, and even like you're saying, like the AI thing, I thought it was interesting how it was called machine learning for so long. And then eventually there was the shift to kind of call it AI. So what are your thoughts on that? Somebody that's kind of working as programming and in the space in the industry there.
That's an interesting problem because most of the algorithms and things that we use have been historically there. It's just that computers now are faster, so we can do things that were unthinkable in the past. Like you could think that was solve a problem, but you couldn't execute it.
Yeah.
And then as things progress, then marketing comes in. And now we have to start finding more interesting terms to name stuff. But AI has this negative connotation from movies, like ChatGPT answers my question. Computers are going to take over the world.
Yep.
So maybe eventually we'll have to find a friendlier alternative.
Well, so what are your thoughts on that? Are they going to take over the world?
So I was trying to scan my badge over there. It took me 3 turns. I was trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. It took me twice. So we're far ahead from the computer taking over my phone. It takes a little bit to scan the badge.
Yeah.
So, I don't expect that to happen. Like I think it's a fun thing to think about, and it's a fun thing to make movies about. having worked with computers for a long time, I'm not seeing it. Like I'm not getting
Yeah.
the feel that the computer has any desire to do something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Until we get to much higher level, possibly. But we'll see. That's the scary part to think about. But I think it's good to be scared by it a little, so that we cautiously build things as we go down the road. But I'm in your camp. I don't see it anytime soon.
Well, you need to have fun. So if I come to a talk about AI and I start like, okay, here is the equation, you lose all the people.
Yeah.
So eventually you mention like, okay, AI will take over, and now people are like, wow, okay. Or you put a Terminator picture. And
Yeah.
it's gonna be fun.
Yep.
And then you bring the equation.
Yeah.
Because eventually that needs to happen.
Yeah. So if people want to reach out to you, connect with you about your project, how do they get in touch with you?
They can email me to Marcelo, Marcelo, at Let's Use Data, LETUSEDATA.com, which is how I branded it. It's more like a slogan than a company. It's like I want the conversations to start with, let's think if the data can solve this problem.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of problems that are not solvable that way.
Uh-huh.
But if it's solvable with data, let's give that the first try.
Yeah, I love that approach. And again, thanks for coming out, sharing your knowledge with you. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Of course.